An effort to keep the doors open at a Catholic school in the Archdiocese of Chicago is being appealed all the way to the Vatican. St. Hubert Catholic School is one of 7 Archdiocesan Catholic schools closing at the end of the year, part of a wider trend of school closings across many dioceses in the U.S. In January, the Archdiocese announced the schools were no longer sustainable. While parents tried to fundraise for their respective schools, they weren't able to raise enough money in time. However, at St. Hubert's, parents are not giving up. In fact, they've made an appeal to the Vatican in order to keep the school open, and they've retained a canon lawyer to help them in their case. Today on News Nightly, we'd like to welcome Dr. Laura Morrison, a licensed civil attorney with a doctorate in canon law and counsel to the families, and Jillian Bernis Garcia, the mother of 2 students currently enrolled at St. Hubert's. Thank you both for joining us. Laura, we'd like to start with you. This case is one of many across the United States involving Catholic schools closing. Why have you agreed to take on this case, and what similar cases have you taken on in the past?
Well, we have a number of cases pending before the Dicastery for Culture and Education. It just sort of popped all at once there. There's just a rash of this. But the St. Hubert School, after you work with Jillian, I don't know how much conversation you've had with her to this point, but she and her husband and the parents of this school, they're on fire for the Lord. They're on fire for acknowledging the use of Catholic education as an evangelization tool. And they're just very committed people.
Now, Laura, can you explain to us the procedure of appealing to the Vatican and the rights the parents have?
The case that was presented by St. Hubert's is really like the cases we're seeing everywhere. Catholic education has a privileged place within the law of the church, and it is an essential component of evangelization. And in this case, we saw little points that we believe can really make the case very viable before the dicastery. For example, attempts at raising revenue, attempts at doing anything they can really for raising money for the school, even renting out the school. There are issues at this institution, as there are at others across the country, of unrestricted funds. In one case that we have at another school, which is also before the Dicastery for Culture and Education, there was liquidity of up to $8 million, $3 million immediately available to the parents of the school itself. So it's really become a problem. But I will say the St. Hubert's group, they've really been very, very committed.
Jillian, can you explain the journey that you took that led ultimately to consulting a canon lawyer to help you with this appeal?
So when we first received the decree of closure at the end of this school year, we were looking at all options. We looked at what it would be like to be an independent school, how maybe we could have the decision reconsidered, what are our alternatives. We also talked with the pastor and tried to get him to help us out. But we ultimately, last second, figured out that we needed to first file a remonstratio with the Archdiocese of Chicago and Cardinal Cupich. And we weren't told that that was even an option. So, and there are very strict time limits. And so we found out, I think, 2 days before it had to be filed, and we were lucky enough to hear back from Dr. Laura Morrison. We've been contacting lots of canon lawyers, and so no one at the superintendent of Catholic schools, no one at the Archdiocese of Chicago told us it was an option, and it was an option we needed to execute right away in order to even bring it before the Dicastery of Culture and Education. So they acted as if it was a done deal. This is what is happening. And so we coordinated with Dr. Lauren Morrison to give all of our information to her, present the first remonstratio to the Archdiocese of Chicago. They had 30 days to either reverse the decision or uphold the decision or not act at all before we could take it to the Dicastery of Culture and Education. So that period happened, and they did not reverse it. They said that they did not have jurisdiction, essentially, because the decision had been made by the pastor and the finance committee at our parish. And so we able to bring it before the Dicastery of Culture and Education currently and hope to be heard from them and Pope Leo.
So it's 10 days from when the parties learn of it, learn of the closing, and the timelines are essential. So if you have to stay up a couple of days before the 10 days is up, that's just the way it goes. But thanks be to God, we have that opportunity. So we prepared everything, got it over to the Cardinal. Then they have the 30 days, as Jill stated, when they came back. I think before the 30 days was expired, we then have 15 days from the date of learning of that decision to take it to the dicastery. The dicastery then technically has 6 months to respond, but they are very busy. They have many, many appeals. I think they have more appeals than they thought they would ever have, but they're very good. They will usually let you know they've received it or if they have accepted your case to study it. And then if that fails, we may consider taking it up to the Apostolic Signatura, which is the Supreme Court of the church. So that's the trajectory of it, but you really do have to watch the time. Timelines are essential with this process.
That's certainly how it sounds. If you could please keep us posted, we'd love to follow this. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you very much for your
much.
interest in this cause.
EWTN News Nightly reached out to the Archdiocese of Chicago multiple times for a comment on this story. They have not responded to our inquiries.